All right, so I came across this article, and honestly, it was one of those things I really wanted to give my thoughts on this because I feel like I have a good amount of things I have to say in regards to this. So we'll go ahead and go over this, read over the article itself, and then I'll go ahead and let you guys know what I think. So, The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, the first Zelda game with its princess as its protagonist, is also the first Zelda game directed by a woman. After 38 years, it's about time. So, we'll let me go ahead and just read the article first, and then I'll let you know what I think. So, Echoes of Wisdom marks many firsts for the almost 40-year-old Legend of Zelda series, one of which is the director herself. As discussed in Nintendo's recent Ask the Developer volume featuring the new game's lead Echo of Wisdom director, Tamami Sano is actually the first ever female director to head a Zelda project in the series in 38 years. That doesn't mean that this is Sano's first working on the beloved series, though. Prior to the project, my main role was to support the director, she explained. Along with the studio Grizo, Sanzo also helped develop the various Zelda remakes. So some of the remakes she did, so we'll go ahead and get into that. So I was involved in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D, and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, she continued. I was also involved in The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. So Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D and then Majora's Mask 3D. I never owned a 3DS, so it was one of those things. I think I only played like some of Ocarina of Time once when I went to a buddy's house. So those remakes, personally, I wasn't a fan of them just because I feel like it was one of those things. The newer look they had for it, I preferred because I'm a old school gamer and everything like that. So I played Ocarina of Time, the original, and Majora's Mask on the 64. So personally, I don't know what it was, but there was something about the style of the 3D versions that I just wasn't really a fan of. Link's Awakening, I love that one. I love that game a lot. That's one of those games I feel like I can just kind of throw on and then just like get into, and it's still a great game. It's still a fun time. And then Twilight Princess HD, I do have that as well. Same thing. I've always loved Twilight Princess, so there's always been love there. So not really any negativity I have towards that. And then Sano's experience expanded beyond the Zelda series too. She and Grizo worked on some other Smash Nintendo hits, including some of the titles in the Mario and Luigi series. When longtime Zelda producer Eiji Aonuma sees her as an essential part of Grizo and its contribution to the series development. I also always ask her to be engaged in the Legend of Zelda remakes that Grizo works on. As a fan myself, I'm excited to see Sanzo's work, from boasting the first female director to having Zelda as its playable protagonist. The game features many firsts, and I can't wait to play. So that's pretty much the article itself. Nothing too bad for the most part. Personally, I think it's great that they do have an individual who is a woman that is going to be directing this, because it is one of those things. Clearly, she has experience with the franchise. She's been able to work on some of these remakes, so she knows her stuff. So that's a good thing. The part that kind of I have an issue with is when you see titles like this. So let me just read again. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, the first Zelda game with its princess as its protagonist. It's also the first Zelda game directed by a woman. After 38 years, it's about time. So that, to me, is a very dangerous game to play when it comes down to something like this. So whoever wrote this, Anna Koselki, whatever. This is something you have to tread very, very lightly when it comes down to something like this. Because now, I'm not saying this is going to be the case, but hypothetically speaking, let's say that Echoes of Wisdom ended up becoming a flop. It wasn't a good game. Let's say if it just wasn't enjoyable, it just didn't have a real good sense of direction, the gameplay wasn't as fun. If that would have been the case, everyone that would read this would look at the director and be like, well, chances are it's because of her, because we decided to have a female director in the role, when that could not be the case. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where if you're going to make a statement like this, you have to be careful in regards to where the direction is going to go. Yes, it's a Zelda game, and yes, it looks like it's going to be a hit. So I feel like doing something like this in this regard isn't something to worry about too much. You're kind of playing it safe a little bit because it is a Zelda franchise game. It is something where it has shown examples of what the gameplay looks like, and it does look like it's going to be something that's fun. It's going to be a hit. I personally am looking forward to this game coming out. But when it comes down to these types of things, you got to be very fucking careful with where you stand in this regard, because this could be a very big backfire for women in general. So it's one of those things where I personally, I don't mind that there's a woman directing this. I think it can work out really well, especially because you can get a different perspective that you don't get majority of the time in the gaming world normally, because it is one of those things. At the end of the day, the gaming industry is predominantly male. It's mainly men that focus on this area, because men are the ones that mainly like to play video games. Not to say that there's no women out there that like to play video games or anything like that, but they're not dominating the landscape of it. So it's one of those things, like, yes, it is nice to have a female director for a Zelda game where Zelda is a protagonist. That makes sense. You know what I mean? You're just going to be a female that you're going to be playing as, have a female director. That's not a bad thing. It can work out really well, especially because you can probably get a female's perspective as well as a female touch to it. That is a nice thing. Whenever you're in an area that is predominantly, overrun by men, every once in a while it is nice to get a female touch. That is something that you can enjoy, because it does kind of give you a different perspective and it can be enjoyable. But you just have to, again, tread very fucking lightly when it comes down to something like this, because this could backfire very easily, especially in today's day and age, with everything that's been going on as far as, all this is backlash and all these back and forth between gamers and, let's say, like, journalists and developers that are trying to push this type of stuff. Oh, we need more women in games, we need more women in the gaming industry, even though that it's kind of showing from a lot of experience we've had in the most recent years where women have been in the gaming industry, it's been on the decline. A lot of these games that they make aren't games that people want to play. When you think of, like, games that Dustborn or Concord, you know what I mean? Where they're trying to be inclusive and trying to be, do this DEI type of stuff. Or what was the one that's been having a controversy? The Dragon Age, Veilguard or whatnot. I'm probably gonna do a video on that, because I was thinking about doing something in that regard when it came down to the boob scars and everything like that. So it's one of those things, like, you just have to be very cautious of what you're doing and how you're going about this, because yeah, you can be like, oh, we're trying to push women up and we're trying to show that they can do things too, because if this game does do well, I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are like, well, women directed it, so that just shows that women can be involved. And it's like, yeah, they very much can be, but at the same time, if this were to flop, or if you have cases like Concord or Dustborn where they do end up flopping, not to say that those had directors that were females, but if it does flop, and let's say if it was a female that was directing it, majority of the time, the fault is going to be put on her. So those are my thoughts on that. In that regard, I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest and let it be known, because I think that this can be a very slippery slope to go down, especially with everything we've been dealing with, a lot of the DEI stuff and a lot of them trying to include individuals that usually aren't involved in this, particularly women in a male dominated area. It's one of those things, like, we gotta just be very careful, and we gotta be a lot smarter about how we go about this stuff, because if not, it can end up biting you in the ass, and it can end up harming women more so than it could be helping, like you're intending to. So those are my thoughts on that. A little bit of a rant there, but that's how I feel about this whole situation. I probably didn't express it the best way I could, especially because I'm recording right now, and I know this video is going to go out, so it does leave me a little bit like a little bit more nervous than I normally would be than if I was just kind of expressing it myself. But those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me? Either way, I would really like to get your guys' input. This is how I feel about the whole situation, so I just kind of wanted to get it off my chest, because this type of thing is it's getting really annoying, in my opinion, honestly. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it's great that there's a woman that's doing this, but let's not just try to focus on that and make it seem like, oh, that's what we need more of that in the gaming industry. Like, no, we need more good directors. Whether it's a man or a woman, who cares? Whether it's, someone that's straight or gay, who cares? Whether it's someone that has, a lighter pigment in their skin or a darker pigment in their skin, who fucking cares? Are you going to come out with a good game? Are you going to come out with something that's enjoyable? That's what I care about as a gamer. That's what I want to know. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. If you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.